In chapter 19, we come to the sixth of the 7 binyanim that we are covering. The sixth binyan is the nifal. The nifal largely provides the passive counterpart to the kal, in the same way that the pual provided a passive counterpart to the pl, and the hofal provided a passive counterpart to the hifil. As with the other stems, the nifal actually, though, encompasses a range of meanings. It can be a passive form where the subject receives the action. For instance, Uvanavi Nishmar. Nishmar is a nifal. It was guarded by the Navi, the prophet. Or Ezekiel 33:22, Vayipatach pi. This is a nifal narrative, and it was opened, and then the subject is pi, my mouth, and my mouth was opened. Nifals can also be reflexive, where the subject impacts itself with the action of the verb. For instance, 2 Samuel 20:10, Va'amasa lo nishmar bacherev. So Va'amasa and Amasa did not. Nishmar is a nifal perfect, guard himself. Ba, in this case, bait against cherev, against the sword. Or Isaiah 36:6, Vayisamek ish alav. This is a nifal imperfect. He supports himself. Who? Ish, the subject is a man, supports himself upon it. The preposition al plus the suffix. Third, nifal verbs are often resultative, when the verb indicates a state of being that results from an activity. For instance, 2 Kings 3:20, Vatimale haaretz et hamayim. Vatimale is a nifal narrative from the root mala, to be full or filled. So in the nifal, and the land was filled with water. Or Genesis 45:3, ki nivchalu, for a causal key, nifal, they became terrified or horrified. And then fourth, sometimes the nifal verb will actually be, for purposes of translation, active. This will be a case where maybe there was a passive or reflexive sense of the verb that you could think your way back to, but in everyday use, that passive or reflexive sense has been forgotten. For instance, Exodus 17:8, Vayilachem im Yisrael birfidam. And he fought. This is a nifal narrative from the root lacham. And he fought with Israel at Rephidim. While you may be able to discern a sense in which when one fights, he or she has a passive self-interest, for all practical purposes, when a Hebrew speaker would have used the nifal of lacham, it was simply an active verb meaning to fight. Similarly, Exodus 14:28, lo nishar bahem ad echad. Not one, not among them even one, remained. This is a nifal perfect from sha'ar. In practical use, this is not reflexive or passive, but simply an active verb. You will recall that the name of each binyan gives you a tip-off as to the vowel patterns and other features of that binyan. So this is the nifal. Remember that the ancient grammarians that named these stems used not our typical root of katal for the paradigms, but pa'al as their root. So in this case, the nifal indicates the addition of a nun before the root letters, and then ni, fall. So the characteristics of the nifal are a preceding nun, and in the perfect, the vowel pattern of a hirek, a silent schwa, and a patach. In some forms of the nifal, this nun, the ni, is initial to the word, and because of that, it is visible at the beginning of the word. This includes the perfect, the participle, and some forms of the infinitive absolute. In other forms, however, the formation of the verbal paradigm involves the addition of a prefix before that nun. In that case, the assimilation of nun, which we are used to from the earlier chapters of this book, will take over. And though this form will be a nifal, you will not see the in written. It will instead be indicated by the dagesh forte that tells you assimilation of nun has occurred.